You're listening to Comic Reflections, episode 224. I'm your host, Nicholas Prom.
And I'm Spencer Valdez.
Comic Reflections is brought to you by The Outhouse. You can find our show and plenty of other cool content at theouthousers.com. And if you enjoy our show, please subscribe to us on either iTunes or Stitcher.
Yeah, you can rate and review us on iTunes. And you can't do that on Stitcher.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, okay.
Which is super helpful, and you should totally do it.
Yeah.
Even if you like us only a little.
Or if you don't like us.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the people who take the time to leave negative reviews of things like this is the worst, or the worst service on Yelp or whatever.
Right, yeah.
You're kind of the worst person. Really, you went out of your way to talk about how lousy something was,
right?
Or how you perceived it. Anyway, I know this isn't the greatest show in the world, but we try. And that's the honest truth. And I try to make it better every time.
Yeah.
So, except for that one time I got drunk. That was pretty funny though.
Yeah.
We had a lot of laughs that episode.
Did.
It was one of our Green Lantern shows.
Yeah.
Hey, what other podcast should I plug at the top of the show today? How about... Go ahead.
Or you haven't plugged Super Podcasto Magnifico.
In a long time, yeah. Because I stopped listening to their show. Even though I really like one, and the Super Podcasto was a fun show, I just stopped listening to podcasts that are about current comics. I'm getting really specific, because there's so many comic podcasts, I'm like, nope, my comic podcasts are going to be history ones that kind of help me improve this show.
Yeah.
But Super Podcasto is a good general comics talk show, and generally speaking, I don't endorse those because I'm bored by them. Because it's usually talking about books that I'm not buying, so
right.
why would I listen to that,
And then I feel like it is a little harder to jump behind new book stuff, because you have to be reading those books. You have to be buying those books.
Well, and listening to a show like that is like, boy, if you're coming in late, it's like, okay, that's 6 months ago. That's like a million years ago. Yeah. It might as well be. But ironically, you talk our show, a history show, you can come in at any time. Mm-hmm. The trades are going to be on the shelves waiting for you, and so is our show.
At your local library, for instance.
If you're broke.
Yeah.
But they also exist in buyable form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the interwebs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk about Supervillain Team-Up.
Yeah, we should. How about Supervillain Team-Up number 6, cover dated June of 1976.
Yeah.
Cover art penciled by Jim Starlin and inked by Alan Weiss, with some alterations on the pencils and inks by John Romita Sr.
Hey, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, well,
I just didn't look at the...
I don't know, but in the issues themselves, they don't give the fullest credits. And I got that from comics.org.
So Marv Wolfman's the editor at this time.
Yeah.
I started rewatching the Batman animated series.
Which is a great series.
Yeah, and he's like an executive producer on that.
Well, yeah, Marv...
I didn't know. Here's
the thing. When Jim Shooter became editor-in-chief at Marvel in the very late 70s, a lot of the talent rightfully felt stifled by him. Mm-hmm. Or were kind of shunted out. Jim Shooter basically pushed Gene Colan out the door too.
Oh, wow.
And canceled Tomb of Dracula, which was Gene and Marv Wolfman were working on. That kind of caused the both of them went over to DC at that point.
Yeah.
And then, what is the biggest hit comic of the 80s? The New Teen Titans.
Oh, yeah.
That Marv Wolfman did. And Gene Colan also did some good stuff at DC at the time. He did a not lengthy run on Batman. He did a book called Night Force. He did Gem, Son of Saturn. So DC kept Gene, with semi-regular work throughout the 80s.
Right. So this issue is called Prisoner.
Well, the story is called.
Prisoner.
Yes, and it was written by Steve Englehart, who I love, but there's some controversial stuff in either this issue or next that we're going to talk about. But the issue was penciled by Herb Trimpe and inked by Jack Abel. But let's get right in this. Namor is captive of Dr. Doom.
He is. Yeah, so Doom has injected him with some kind of, somehow he's taken away his power to where if he doesn't get a special serum, he's going to die in 24 hours.
No. Here's what it is. Remember Namor had his costume that was circulating water through his body so he wouldn't because something had happened to Namor in his own book that kind of made it so he couldn't live on land for extended periods of time.
Right.
So the costume was circulating water and touching him, so he's good. Kind of like Aquaman's also was doing that. I don't know which came first though, as far as that.
Right. Yeah.
Doing that. But anyway, the costume with a shirt and pants that Namor had was destroyed in a fight, and so
right. But he does have a serum that he has to take.
And Doom is the one who can provide
so
it.
he's being held hostage prisoner.
Yeah.
By Doom, and kind of like so. Last issue, he was taken by Doom from the Baxter Building.
Yeah.
And the Fantastic Four, or Reed Richards, was like, "Look, I told him I'd help him. We're gonna go help him."
Yeah.
And so they jump into the
Fantastic Car.
Fantastic Car.
Is it the flying bathtub?
Yes.
Okay, then yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny because Jeff and I are talking about earlier this week. We just recorded an episode and talked about the Fantastic Four's first meeting with Namor, and Namor's first team up with Dr. Doom.
Oh, okay.
And it's interesting that how long this relationship with Doom goes, and Doom just keeps stabbing him in the back every time. Yeah. But how Reed, Namor has. There's a love triangle with Namor, Reed, and Sue.
Okay.
Namor has this great affection for her, and she's always a little wandering eye, with Namor, where Namor is concerned. And the nobility of Reed Richards is like, no, I swore I would help him, is really great.
Yeah.
And this is building off of that a decade a decade plus of comics.
If the love of my life has a wandering eye, I'm not going to want to be helping the guy that...
Right.
Yeah, okay. So, question. So, it's the Fantastic Car.
Yeah.
Fantastic Car. I really... Even Batman sometimes, with the Batmobile's classic.
Okay, but then there's
the Batcave. But then there's the
Batplane, the Batcopter, the Whirly Bat. I love the Whirly Bat.
I hate the name of the Whirly
Bat. I hate the name also, but it's awesome. In fact, when I think Batcopter, that's what I think of. But that's incorrect.
Right.
It's that was one person helicopter.
But then I remember
there's the Batboat, which is just really.
Then people Green Arrow had
the Arrow
car. The Arrow boat, what, all that.
The Arrow car and the Arrow cave. Green Arrow was just a total, it's Batman with arrows.
Right, yeah. And I hate them. I hate it across comics.
What?
Just part of the name, insert, X vehicle.
Right, noun vehicle or whatever. They
come up with a cooler name.
Yeah, I think with Batman it gets to be a bit much, but at the same time, Batman is the only one that can really pull it off.
Right. The
Batarang. Bat signal. Everything. It's everything.
Right. And it's needless, I would say. The bat signal. Well, it can't be. It's not just shark repellent. It's bat shark repellent. Right. Yeah. What? Right. But when I loved in the Batmobile, Batman turned to Robin and said, "Pop the bat chute." Shoot up to slow down because they have the jets in the back of the car. And it probably had the bat symbol on it too, right?
Probably. I mean, yeah. I wonder if Batman's writing all this stuff off. How you have your name or logo on anything, everything that has it, you can write off. Right. I wonder if Batman has some shell companies that he has this that maybe he writes it off. Because being Batman is pretty expensive, even for a billionaire. Yeah. It would be smart.
It's helpful that he's a billionaire.
Yeah, but I think it's to be a way to stop the hemorrhage of funds, constantly. Yeah. So we should really get back to this book. But I love these Batman segues.
Okay, so the Fantastic Four and the Fantastic Four are on their way to Latveria, to Castle Doom, and when they get kind of in range, Doom attacks
with a bunch of robots.
Yeah. Right? Missiles first.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Soften them up.
Yeah. And then the thing, grabs one and, chucks it back. And Yeah. So they get through the air barrage of rockets. Yeah. And they have to land quickly. It's not a crash landing, but it's quick. And they jump out, and they immediately have to fight robots.
Yeah, which is great.
Doombots. And they go nuts. They're fine.
Here's the thing: if the robots look like Doom, then they're Doombots.
Oh, so they're not Doombots here.
If they're just robots, so they're Doom drones.
Okay.
So,
gotcha. And from his window, Namor is looking down, watching this all happen. And he's frustrated because he wants to help, but he can't. He'll die. And because he doesn't have his suit, and he's not nearly as strong as he normally is. But he also notices down kind of in the shadows is the Shroud.
Yeah, the Shroud.
Yeah, I really like the dark negative space in this panel.
Right. No, Jack Gable is really an unsung as an inker, and he does a terrific job here.
Yeah.
Plus, over Herb Trimpe's pencils, and Herb Trimpe was great.
Right.
He had like an 8-year run on the Incredible Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty dang classic. It's hard. There's really two definitive artists on the Hulk who had lengthy runs. It's Herb Trimpe and then Sal Buscema.
Okay.
And those two runs are like, yes, just buy or die.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
So while the fight is happening, Doom is kind of leading this shadowy figure through, not the Shroud, but another shadowy figure, through the Doom Castle, showing
all of his, this is so great. The payoff is so wonderful.
Showing off all of his technology and his weapons and
and his guest brings up the time platform too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then they end up sitting and talking, and Doom's on his throne, looking menacing, like he does.
Yeah.
And they're striking up a deal. And he lets them know that now I'm allied with Atlantis. Namor and I have a deal, and I mean, how much of a deal is it?
Really,
it's pretty one-sided.
He strong-armed him into it, but yeah.
And so they both drink to each other's health, and they're immediately interrupted by
Namor.
Well, Bella.
Oh, excuse me, one of Doom's manservant.
Yeah. And so Doom's like, yes, I know that they're here. Fine, I'm gonna summon Namor, and he summons Namor and says, "Hey, you're gonna fight for me."
Because I'm busy.
and Namor just is like, well, I guess I'll do it. My honor tells me I have to.
Well, it's weird because he does. It's like his honor tells him, like, hey, they were just like gonna try and save my life, and now I have to fight them.
Right.
But he has no choice.
Yeah. So earlier, the Thing is talking to Reed Richards.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm gonna get in there and I'm just gonna crush him. Doom's time is over. And Reed is like, well, if it comes to that, okay. But for once, I'm gonna actually agree with the Thing, and just be like, yeah, the Thing was right. He should just go in and crush him. That might be much harder said than done.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's a war criminal. He is a bad guy. Sometimes the bad guy just needs to go down.
Wait, Dr. Doom was a war criminal?
I mean, yeah.
How do you find... No,
we'll see that later.
He wasn't in a war, committing war crimes.
He's committing crimes of war, though. Like, he's committing acts of aggression against
people. But that's not what a war criminal is. War criminals are someone in a war who breaks the rules of the Geneva Convention about torture and things like that.
Okay. He's a bad guy anyways.
Okay.
And thank you.
That was your little real history
Alright.
Thing from me.
Thing should crush him. Alright, so moving on. Let's see, where are we? Oh, yeah. The Fantastic Four just kind of deal with Namor with little, like...
well, this is
he didn't give him much trouble at all.
Yeah, well, this is not Namor at full strength, and maybe he doesn't really want to defeat them.
That's what I was thinking as well.
You know, he said he'd fight him, but he didn't say he'd win.
Yeah. And so, finally, Johnny just, like, lays into him with some fire and knocks him out. They run through, and they're about to take on Doom, and none other than
Dr. Henry Kissinger is revealed to be Doom's guest. And so Doom has just made an accord, an alliance with the United States or something, or there's some kind of pact or whatever of non-interference. And so the Fantastic Four, they pack up and go home.
Yeah, and I don't think a hero would actually do that.
I think it's really lame of Reed to do that. It seems like a thing Reed would do, though. Yeah. It reads fairly true to him.
Because, I mean, this is kind of how the issue ends. And we'll see in the next issue that Reed is still kind of pissed about it. Yeah. But right now, Reed's like, well, we gotta go. And I don't think an actual hero would let some bureaucrat stand in the way of taking down this guy who is obviously going to start some stuff.
Let's give a little context. Reed and Ben both fought in World War II. Uh-huh. Okay? So, of course, with Marvel's kind of stretched timeline, it's kind of weird.
Yeah. But like, Namor mentions that he's like 22 when he fought in World War II, but it's been like 60 years or some weird amount of time.
Namor, because he's half Atlantean, the age thing, you can get away with it.
Yeah.
And maybe the cosmic rays of, like, cause the FF members to age slower.
Okay.
But no one's that I've ever seen mentioned that.
Right.
You know, like the super soldier serum keeps Cap kind of young. Yeah. Different things like that. But stuff. Right. But being that Reed fought in World War II, okay, and granted he is a bit more of a square anyway, okay, yeah. And I'm being generous there, but it makes sense that he would say, no, the U.S. government says, we leave Dr. Doom alone, we're going to do it. Even though they're not government agents. They should be like, okay, we're not operating on behalf or whatever of the United States.
Right. So you said that both him and
even though the U.S. government sanction and allow the Fantastic Four to operate basically unencumbered.
Right.
So that's a thing too.
So you mentioned that him and Ben fought in World War II.
Yeah.
I would think that the idea of letting someone like Doom, a tyrant, continue to be in power would really it would push the bounds of Reed actually letting him go.
Right. Well, and here's the thing: as we get into the next issue, Johnny basically raises that point.
Okay. Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
And we should just get into the next issue, really.
We can do that.
So
the last thing the Shroud is, he's watching everything, and he actually stays behind while the Fantastic Four...
No, he did not get into the fight before.
Didn't, no.
He was waiting. Biding his time. And this next issue, we're going to see a lot from the Shroud.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this. The Supervillain Team-Up number 7. Cover dated August of 1976. Cover art, penciled by Rich Buckler and inked by Klaus Janson. Rich Buckler was a rising star in the 1970s. And then Klaus Janson, pretty famous for inking, Frank Miller and John Romita Jr. In the 80s and 90s.
Wow.
So, I think Klaus Janson might have done some stuff with Bill Sienkiewicz too, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. But anyway, this story is called Who is the Shroud? Written again by Steve Englehart, penciled by Herb Trimpe, and inked by Pablo Marcos. So, yeah.
I just reread the part where Johnny speaks up. And so let's just dive into that. Reed has led the group away from Doom. Yeah. They're going back to the Fantastic Car, and they're going to leave. Yeah. And Johnny loses it. His exact words are, let's back it up. Reed says, if you don't like the way I'm running this team, you can always go it alone, which is kind of ruthless when it comes to a team leader.
Well, yeah, but it's just like, they're the Fantastic Four, but we typically think of them as that 4 core members, but other people have been on the team.
Gotcha.
When Sue was pregnant with Franklin, Crystal from the Inhumans filled in, and as did Medusa also for a time. Ben was out of it, and they briefly had Luke Cage
Oh, wow.
for like an issue or something like that. But other people have served on the team.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying.
So Johnny lays into Reed and says, maybe we just will, Reed. You talk about how Ben and I sound, but you sound like Neville Chamberlain before World War II.
Right.
He said Hitler wasn't going to bother anybody. And Doom, he's just another modern-day Hitler.
Right.
Yeah, because,
now, granted, Hitler wants to rule, or excuse me, Doom wants to rule the world and stuff, but he's never advocated genocide.
Right.
There's a lot of major differences between Doom and Hitler.
Yeah.
But he definitely is, he would be a tyrant.
Yeah.
I mean, he is one, but...
It wouldn't be a happy place to live if Doom was in charge. And, I mean, not saying that life is happy-go-lucky, but there would be extra lameness to the world.
Yeah. And it's interesting, I want to say, even though Johnny Storm is like my least favorite member of the Fantastic Four, I think he's just a punk douchebag, like, most of the time. I'm in agreement with him that, like, that just because Dr. Henry Kissinger has, shook hands with Dr. Doom, that they should just forget
right
what's at stake here.
Yeah.
And, So.
And so, that's kind of all we get from the Fantastic Four for the rest of this issue.
Yeah. I mean, they were just kind of in and...
Yeah. So we have Kissinger and Doom shaking hands, and Kissinger taking off, and...
in the America Copter.
Right, yeah. And Namor kind of being, like, really upset that Doom would make him fight Fantastic Four and all this stuff.
Right.
And so Namor heads back up to his...
Although it shouldn't surprise him at all.
Right, yeah.
But yeah.
Has him, like, he heads back up to his cell room.
Right.
He's freely walking through the castle by himself. Like, he got sent to his room after dinner.
Well, it's like, Doom knows he's not going to go very far because Doom has the serum.
Yeah. So, in his cell, or room, whatever you want to call it, hiding behind a curtain...
is the Shroud.
And he kind of lays it out, like, Namor's like, who the hell are you? And
I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'll just tell you my whole life story. And we find out that the Shroud was just a normal guy. And his family was, like, killed, like Batman. And he was, like, totally distraught and decides, like, seeing all these, like, superheroes around, he's like, I could do that. And so he, like, really dedicates himself to, like, crime fighting and detective work. And,
like, learning all the
sciences,
stuff. And training his body.
Yeah, and then honing his body as well.
And he goes to study with some monks and stuff.
Yeah, in, like, Tibet.
Yeah.
And,
when he completes the training, they burn his face.
Yeah.
Because reasons.
They blind him. So I feel...
No, it wasn't Tibetan monks, because these were people who worship Kali.
Yeah, it's the cult of Kali.
So they're thuggies.
I don't...
This is a real group from history, but
Okay.
I don't know their whole story. But The Stranglers of Bombay, you ever heard of that movie?
No.
It's about the cult of Kali, or
Okay.
the thuggies. Also, that was the cult in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So they pull hearts out of people.
I don't know if that's a real thing, but anyway, yeah, those were the thuggies. That's the cult of Kali.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so they burn his face, and he, like, runs out to, like, soothe it by sticking his face in the snow. And when he turns around, everything's vanished, and he's gone blind. So I don't know if he knows that everything's vanished or senses. I don't know.
I think he developed some kind of, like,
Extrasensory.
he'd honed his senses to the point where he can move about freely and know where stuff is. And it's not like Daredevil's radar sense, but he's able to get around just fine without sight.
Right.
Because reasons.
And
fairly recently in Mark Waid's run, he actually encountered Daredevil.
Oh, okay.
Which is so weird that they wouldn't have met before that.
Yeah, you would think there's a convention for blind superheroes.
Right. Well, and the Shroud is not above killing either, so
right, yeah.
Which would bring him into direct conflict with Daredevil.
Yeah.
The Shroud is kind of a supporting character in the Werewolf by Night and Moon Knight books. And Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night are pretty closely tied together. So.
Okay. Prior to the show, we were talking about the like different heroes that we see in the Shroud. So we've talked about Daredevil a little bit.
Clearly, there's Batman parallels.
Yeah, I mean, he's of the night. He's has a really dark cape.
Yeah. He went and trained himself, and his parents were killed. All that stuff. It's big, strong Batman parallels. A little bit of Daredevil with the blindness stuff. But also, there's some actual parallels with Doctor Doom. The going and training with monks later, because after Doom was disfigured in his lab experiment trying to contact the underworld, then he went off into, the Far East, and studied with his peoples, and then then he became the master of those monks or whatever, and then when they made him the armor, they burned his face when they put the mask on, like he will not wait for it to cool, and so they put it on, and so he was, yeah.
So Namor's finally like, all right, so why are you here? And he just lays it out, I'm here to kill Doom. And they have a small conversation, and one of the best lines from Namor, he ends up saying, oh, I see, you're insane.
Well, the thing is, he thinks killing a guy is going to be put him on the map as a superhero.
Right.
But the number one supervillain in the world, and you're the brand new guy, you're an idiot.
Well, I mean,
really.
If you pull it off.
But he's so not going to.
But if you pull it off.
Right. But in the 80s, there was a villain a vigilante character called the Scourge.
Okay.
Scourge of Crime. And he was picking off and killing all these minor supervillains. Just blowing them away Punisher style.
Right.
Well, Punisher was more about white-collar crime, gangsters, street criminals. But this guy was about going after supervillains.
That seems more legit to me.
Scourge operated throughout much of the 80s, and then was killed, I think.
Oh.
I don't know how, but then, this guy isn't the Scourge.
Right.
Okay.
That seems more legit to me than, the Punisher.
What?
Because, these, supervillains, they have, Doom wants to take over the world.
No, he was going minor supervillains. Think of Marvel versions of the Flash's Rogues Gallery.
Oh wow! Okay.
So he's basically the wacky guys. They just want to rob banks. These aren't murderous cutthroats. Okay. So the Scourge was they're violent criminals, but they're not murderers. And so the Scourge was kind of they were scared to death of this guy. He's killed the Ringer and trying to go after guys like the Water Wizard and stuff. The Water Wizard was the guy who escaped the Scourge. There was a massacre at this bar where a lot of supervillains hung out. The Water Wizard was the guy who escaped and went to the Avengers or Captain America or somebody, and somebody took down the Scourge or attempted to, or he died. I don't know the whole story, but there was a big massacre. The Scourge wiped out a dozen or more supervillains in one time, and the guys like the Shocker were terrified that the Scourge were going to get him. So anyway,
so while the Shroud and Namor are talking, we kind of slide over to Reed and the Fantastic Four, who decide they're just going to go to Hydra base and let them know. Yeah, well, they want to let them know that Namor was being held prisoner.
Oh, okay.
And so they go and...
This is weird, though, because we haven't seen the FF have any communication with the Hydra base before.
Oh, really?
Did Namor, that I recall, did Namor mention them to the FF in the previous issue?
I think... Yeah, I think he gave his
Oh, he had told the story. Okay.
Flashback issue.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they go and tell the people at Hydra base, and they're like, "Why aren't you doing something about it?" Well, we got ordered not to by the U.S. government.
Well, dang.
Okay. And so here's the really controversial part of this.
Yeah.
Doom goes out to walk his hounds, and he walks by a farmhouse. He's kicks open the door, and he's like, "Hey, that girl, I want her. Send her with me."
Yeah, and he basically invokes. It's not prima nocta, but it's whatever the term is in French, and I can't pronounce it.
Right? Yeah, I can neither.
But prima nocta meaning,
first night.
First night of a married a bride. The ruler has the right to take her. Sexually.
Yeah, which is not okay.
But also, not only is that being misused, because this is a girl who was unmarried and clearly a bit young, maybe, but it's where it's kind of vague. Never before or since has Doom been interpreted as having this rapey vibe. It's so out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's really uncharacteristic of Dr. Doom. And I'm disappointed in Steve Englehart for doing this.
Right.
It kind of like took it. It's sort of kind of connected to like move the plot along to the next thing that we'll talk about. But it's so out of character for Dr. Doom.
And I don't think rape should be used as a plot moving device.
And coercion is definitely rape.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, not sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, no, it shouldn't be a plot device. And Steve Englehart is a great comics writer. His run on Captain America in the 70s is amazing, among his other works, okay? But this I have a problem with. This, I mean, even Noble Homer nodded once or twice, okay? You know, so I'm like, people have missteps. This is just so jarring to me.
Yeah. It seems like, yes, we want to portray that Doom is a very bad guy. He's not above stuff.
But he's not the Red Skull. The Red Skull I would see as a rapist. If he ever showed interest in a woman, I think the Red Skull is actually a homosexual. Because, again, I've never seen him show interest in chicks, and it's always, he's obsessed with Captain America. And usually that's a weird, like, I think on a psychological standpoint, I think it's a self-hatred, or a, like, he is projecting his hate on his physical ideal.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is total psychobabble. I mean, like, I'm not a clinical psychologist or anything, but...
They don't know that.
Well, whatever. I'm not going to lie. But it's just a theory.
Right, yeah. No, I think it could totally stand up.
Yeah.
But let's kind of move along.
And I don't want my making that to sound homophobic.
Right.
But I'm saying, because the Red Skull is a very extreme individual, okay?
Yeah.
So, and he's not real.
So, we say all that, but then, before anything can happen, the Shroud steps in, and he takes on Doom. And Doom kind of, like, starts to, like, get the upper hand, but then the Shroud turns it around.
Yeah, the Shroud has kind of some Batman-type gadgetry.
Yeah.
He's got things that are like batarangs or whatever and different stuff.
He has a net that he then throws on Doom, and Doom throws it off, but in doing so, he kind of loses his balance.
Yeah.
And one of his hounds ends up attacking him.
Right.
And he goes over the edge.
Of a cliff.
Of a cliff, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like a small cliff. It is a major cliff. And the Shroud's done it. The Shroud has killed Doom. And so he's like, he ends up saying, I did it, Gretchen. Dr. Doom is dead, and he's like solidified this like idea that I've avenged you, and I have, but like Doom wasn't really responsible for the murder of his family, but he's an established hero now, and he goes back to Namor, and he's like, all right, dude, let's get out of here, and they flee Castle Doom. However, my 3 favorite panels in all of the reading this week, and last week, are these 3 here, with the black and kind of like the blinking of a light, the slow fade in, and then the final like total full panel.
Like it's Doom awakening from unconsciousness.
Yeah.
And he's at Hydra Base.
Yeah, and he's being he's kind of held captive by Prince Rodolfo. And
wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, Rodolfo! Remember when we began this? Mm-hmm. I didn't even realize that's who that was.
Yeah. Namora and dang it, I forgot her name.
It's Namorita, not
Namorita and Tamora.
Yeah.
That's
Namorita and Namora are 2 different persons.
Right. Yeah.
They are of relation to Namor, though.
Right. I think
they're both his cousins. But yeah.
And they're like, all right, we're taking you back to Atlantis, Doom. You're our prisoner, basically until we get Namor back.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that kind of leads into our final issue today.
Yeah, this will be Supervillain Team Up number 8, cover dated October 1976, with cover art by Marie Severin.
Okay.
The story is called Escape. It was written by Steve Englehart, with the art, the pencil breakdowns by Keith Giffen, and then the pencil finishes by Owen McCarran, and the inks also by McCarran.
Okay. Keith Giffen is very familiar to me.
Keith Giffen, let's see, best known also in the 70s. He's a really good when he wants to be, and now he's very his artistic style is very. He works in several different styles.
Okay.
He does great Kirby imitation.
Okay.
And then he has a really weird style that he does that I'm not really into. That I have a hard time describing. I just don't like it.
Okay.
It's he used that on Ambush Bug, and that's like the one time I like that style.
Okay.
And then we'll do the showcase on Ambush Bug sometime. You'll love it. It's fun.
Okay.
Think of Deadpool without the killing.
Okay.
Fourth wall breaking.
Okay.
Wacky character.
Yeah.
And Keith Giffen had a lengthy run in the 80s on Legion of Superheroes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we start
among
this,
other things.
Oh, right.
So anyway, but go ahead.
We start this issue with Doom at Hydra Base, and
Owen McCarran, the penciler on this. He's dead.
Oh.
And he's a Canadian. That's all I know about him. Somebody posted something about him on Facebook, and I forgot to look him up. Why don't you vamp for a while, and I'll look it up.
So Doom is captured, and the 3 captors are saying, "Hey, we want Namor back. You're holding him prisoner. We want him back, and you can be free." And so Doom's like, "How? Okay, fine. He's not being held captive. He's sitting comfortably in a chamber in my castle. We made a deal. He would help me, and I would help you, because I have agreed to use my scientific genius to return you green-skin ingrates to your mortal or your normal human selves." Oh, that struck a nerve, is what he says. And Namor, what? And so they decided to take Namor, or not Namor, Doom back to Castle Doom, so they can get so they can see Namor and make sure that he's all right. But in the meantime, Namor has escaped, and so that kind of ticks off it piques something in their minds. Like, if he wasn't a captive, why did he have to escape? And Doom kind of lays into one of his guards. Meanwhile, Namor and the Shroud are running through kind of the forest, and they come upon, or they're going back to the Shroud's plane, and the peasants, or that's what they're called in the story. I'm not calling them peasants. The townspeople have gone out and just totally destroyed the Shroud's plane.
Okay, let's put a pin in that for a sec. Owen McCarran, he had off and on working comics, working for Marvel, DC, and Charlton.
Okay.
Did a bunch of work for them, but also he worked for 32 years. He's Canadian for the Halifax Herald, or the Chronicle Herald rather. Mm-hmm. So he was a newspaper guy in Canada, and he died in 2005, and it doesn't say his cause of death.
Okay.
But
that's interesting. A newspaper guy just jumping over to comics.
Well, he was doing it concurrently.
Oh, he's doing okay.
Yeah, okay. His real job was working in newspapers, and he picked up other
what was it? Work. I wonder if he was doing little cartoons and things like that.
I don't know if it was. I mean, he was a cartoonist, but I think he maybe have been a writer also.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, he did things he did for Marvel and DC were more like special products, Marvel Fun and Games puzzle book, or things like that.
Okay.
But yeah.
So while the Shroud and Namor are hiding kind of in the bushes, like trying to figure out what to do, one of the dogs of the townspeople like sniffs him out, smells Namor, and goes after him. And the townspeople turn, they're like, "Get him!" And like they run after him like pitchforks. It's very Frankenstein.
Yeah. Latveria, when it's done right, definitely feels like Universal monster movies, like
Okay.
townspeople are coming.
Yeah. Okay. They make it across a bridge, like a rope bridge, and the Shroud just cuts it, and so they escape the townspeople.
Yeah.
So they go back to the. Sorry. Meanwhile, the Namora. No.
The Atlantean chicks.
The Atlantean chicks and Doom go back to Hydra Base.
Yeah.
So Doom can like tinker with their stuff and like fix them.
You're using air quotes.
Yeah, air quotes. Fix them back into a normal human form.
Yeah.
But really, he's just trying to send a.
He's gonna fix the amphibious people there.
Right. Yeah. But really, he's using their equipment to send a signal of himself to some of his loyal servants.
I can't believe I can't remember the name of his main servant.
Boris.
Boris. Yeah. Like, man,
Yeah.
I am off today if I didn't remember Boris.
Yeah. And so, their show, not they.
Who is they?
The Shroud and Namor.
Okay.
Sorry. They make their way through the forest some more, and they come across a circus.
A circus of crime.
That's right.
But they're actually totally like being a legit circus at this point because
Yeah.
the ringmaster's hypnotic helmet is broken.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So this was your first encounter with the ringmaster and the circus of crime.
It is.
And your lack of reading much Marvel comics is showing.
It is.
Explain yourself.
So, growing up, I was very much a DC kid.
Mm-hmm.
And those heroes just really appealed to me. Marvel just seemed a lot darker to me for some reason.
Interesting.
A little more grown up. And I liked the idea of, like, the Super Friends and, like, yay, let's go fight crime, guys!
You should see the arm gestures that Spencer's making. Okay.
And so, growing up in the 90s...
The Justice League cartoon was a thing.
Yeah.
And the Batman and the
Yeah.
Superman. Yeah.
And, like, comics weren't great.
No, it's a pretty dark decade for comics.
And so...
There is good stuff, but there's... You have to look for it.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I think DC fared that decade, or weathered that decade better.
Yeah. And I think that's why I was more in tune with them.
Right.
And so...
I think by and large, Marvel's 90s output is pretty bad.
Recently, I've been about even in my reading of Marvel and DC.
I think your pull list at the comic shop has really leaned heavy on Marvel.
Yeah, it is, because...
DC sucks now.
Yeah.
It's really sad. I mean, I love DC comics. People think I'm more of a DC guy, and I guess maybe I am.
Uh-huh.
But, I mean, I grew up as a Marvel kid.
Right.
Marvel kid, but DC curious, I should say. and no, but as an adult, I really got in and dug and checked out more DC, and like I'm more into it now because I'm learning. Yeah, I have more to learn about.
Uh-huh.
You know? But and it's very interesting. But I love Marvel comics.
Right.
But I wish DC I wish there was a leg to stand on to defend DC's current output, and there isn't.
And
it's garbage.
There's a few books that I'm picking. I'm picking up the Titans book.
I'm getting the Dark Knight 3, even though I know it's going to be hot garbage.
Right. I'm picking up Teen Titans. I love the Teen Titans. You've not read
the Wolfman of Paris run, have you?
I've read some.
Okay, because that's like the definitive run.
Right. I'm reading it right now because there's no Cyborg involved.
You really don't like him.
I really hate
Here's the
Cyborg.
thing. When you read the Wolfman Perez run, he'll grow on you. Because
I
that's the definitive Cyborg stuff.
I don't see the point of Cyborg at all. at all. I
Okay,
don't see the point.
this is an interesting rabbit trail.
Right,
Maybe we'll get back to that sometime.
Yeah, right.
But
you're right. DC doesn't have a foot to stand on right now.
You'll get him when you read the Wolfman Paris run, because I really only think Marv Wolfman's the guy who knows how to write Cyborg.
Okay.
DC Comics sucks now, and it's really sad for me because I love DC and I wish they were good, but they're lousy now.
You know what? I'm picking up Constantine and
Dr. Fate, right?
Dr. Fate right now. Those two books are really good. Okay. I will say that.
I will say, like, a book here and there are good, but then it's like in the 70s. Oh, a new book that's actually good? Oh, well, don't get too comfortable because it's going to get canceled.
Right. Yeah, that's. I'm very.
I feel like Dan Didio is like Carmine Infantino was in the 70s.
Okay.
A terrible, terrible publisher.
Mm.
So, yeah. And Jeanette Kahn can't come back and save DC like she did. So I really don't know what's going to happen to them.
So, in my opinion, I think DC, if they can't weather this and get through this kind of garbage time, they will go the way of the newspaper much faster than Marvel or Dark Horse or any other independent.
You mean publishers have actually embraced digital and physical as a thing?
I will
and
always
isn't
buy
trying to go
copies.
back to the 90s, like big guns, big boobs, that'll sell us.
Yeah.
Just the adolescent mindset.
I will always buy physical copies of comic books. I like holding a book in my hands.
I mean, I may get to a point where I don't buy single issues anymore, but I gotta have trades in my hand.
So, getting through to DC that we have stuff that we want to get through.
Yeah.
Is rough because how many letters are they reading today? You know, fan letters. You know,
I don't know if they are, but internet is different. It's now because it's different now because of the internet. You have instant feedback, and then it's just being ignored. It's just a wash.
Yeah. If you're gonna print a letter from a fan, you're gonna read it and then you're gonna think about it. If you're just responding to an email, it's gone in a minute.
Or
and so you don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah. Or I know better than you.
Right. Yeah.
But clearly DC doesn't know better because they're failing so miserably.
Right.
And
we should jump back to the book.
One more minute and we'll get back. An unrecognizable Superman, no real Justice Society book, no Legion book.
Yeah.
There's no DC for me.
Right.
There's nothing there for me.
Yeah.
So
honestly, I would love to read a Batman book right now. I would love to read a Batman book, but there's 20 Bat Family books, and all of them, half of them are in line, half of them are somewhere else.
You mean as continuity-wise?
Yeah, and I won't read it. I won't read it if you're going to make it so complicated. Well, why do you read a Batman book, staple of DC?
Here's a brilliant idea. Instead of 20 Bat titles, how about 2, and you sell a whole boatload of them?
Absolutely, and you make them good.
Yeah.
Quality over.
Well, I think up until the Robo Bunny Batman, the Batman book has been good.
Okay.
But again, it's jumped the shark.
Yeah.
With this current arc that they're in, and Superman has just been terrible all through the New 52. That's the biggest sign of its failure. It's Superman isn't Superman in this, and that's just unforgivable. So.
Back to this.
Yeah.
Sorry. Where are we? We're right here.
Circus of Crime.
Yeah. So the Shroud and Namor.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say if you've read a bunch of Marvel comics just in your life, even just random stuff, you'll have encountered the Circus of Crime.
Right.
And you asked me about them, who are the Circus of Crime? Is that a thing? Wow.
So Namor and
the Shroud.
The Shroud just ended up fighting them.
Yeah,
taking them all on. Namor gets kind of someone shows him a hologram kind of thing of Doom, and he's like, well, okay, fine. And he heads back to Castle Doom. He's recaptured. But the Shroud is kind of demasked and his cape's taken from him.
Unmasked?
Unmasked, yeah. And his secret identity is revealed.
Hey, it's that guy.
And they're
that no one knows.
Him? And that's kind of where this issue ends.
Okay.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, we'll be getting into several issues of the Avengers that cross over into this series, so that should be very exciting. Did you have anything else you wanted to kind of top off this issue with, or the episode with? Or?
I think I've got everything. Remember to rate and review us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Yeah.
Find us on Facebook, Comic Reflections, and you can follow us on Twitter at Comic Reflections. At Comic Reflections.
No, at Comic Reflection.
Oh, Comic
with no S. Because we didn't get enough characters to do that.
Oh, jerks.
Yeah, I know. Twitter sucks that way.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's our show.
Yeah.
Bye.